Hi there again. My name's Nick Phillips. I'm a 45-year-old chap from Swansea, and we're talking next about recovery and some of the work I'm doing around, which helps my recovery as well. I mean, by helping others. So, in terms of recovery, I think once we talked previously about um, the correlation between drink and drugs and trying to get a better understanding of addiction or gambling disorders, as some of us like to call it, because it can be, some people don't realize it has been it is a DSM, so and that's a mental health kind of thing. So it's really important that um, there's no, whilst there's some correlations in recovery with drink and drugs, I think gambling has a very unique kind of, it's quite a very unique addiction. And I think, especially when you're looking for recovery and treatment, I think it has to be a very niche thing. I don't think, like you said, when people, I mean, I genuinely believe there's treatment providers out there who seem to encourage and think that you can control what you're doing, and this is where the correlation does come in with drinking and drugs, is that if you were an alcoholic, a counsellor or some treatment provider would not encourage you to control your drinking. Once you're an alcoholic, you can't control it. It's the same with gambling. So you can't control your gambling. Once you've got that level of being addicted, there is only one way to do this, and it's to take the abstinence kind of route. And I think that, look, in the last 12 to 18 months, my outlook on gambling has massively changed. So my whole recovery has been centered around Gamblers Anonymous, and Gamblers Anonymous has got a massive success rate in supporting and helping people out of gambling, and it's very much an abstinence-led program. But I think moving forward, I think having other options out there to do it, because some people don't buy into GA for various reasons, things like religious connotations, because you look at some of the wording, it mentions the word God sometimes, and some people can be put off. But I think what GAA does is it's a massive organisation that gives people who with lived experience a chance to share their stories, and sometimes that's the most powerful thing you can have. And whilst I have huge respect for people who train in sort of counselling service and stuff like that, I think having that ability to talk to someone who's gone through that experience and to give their advice and share their advice is massive. So I think what I'm fast learning, and part of my recovery now, is that following on from where I am in my life, is that being given another chance to explore more about myself, learn about myself. I mean, I buried my head in the sand for 20 odd years to my gambling addiction. I didn't really understand who I was. And I'm learning and growing every day. And you're always trying to have that belief that you're trying to be a better person, trying to evolve and trying to learn new things. And I've met some amazing people in the last 12 to 18 months who are doing so much good work. And I've got quite horrendous stories themselves, whether it's people who have gone through addiction themselves, or as parents or siblings, and their stories are powerful and amazing. And when you combine everything together, then we're looking to try and certainly change the landscape and trying to raise awareness and trying to support people, because there's still a huge stigma around this. I mean, it's always risky, I find. Some people find it risky, putting their head above the parapet and be able to go out in public and saying, this is who I am or who I was, but I've done something about it and I want to help you. Because for me, I think one of the analogies of the problems of stigmas around gambling addiction is people think it's about money, because you lose huge sums of money. I've gone through 2 bankruptcies. I caused my wife to lose the house very early in the recovery, and sometimes you have to find peace for that. I mean, you beat yourself up again. It said what's one of the issues you have around when you go into recovery. You have to drag some stuff up that is quite painful, but you have to look at it and challenge it and analyze it, and talk to people about it. And then the key to any, I think, any kind of recovery and treatment is communication. You have to be able to feel that you are going to be able to open up and to talk to someone and not be judged, and have someone who can empathise, and truly understand what's going on, and that is slowly happening. There's a long way to go, but through people sharing their stories, through lived experience, we have a real opportunity to really explore this further. And in the last 12 to 18 months, like I said, through my meetings with, and it all started because obviously we were very fortunate in Swansea to have an MP in Carolyn Harris, who chairs up the APPG, who's passionate about gambling reform. And we met via Twitter, and she opened lots of doors for me to meet lots of other people. And it's really been an eye-opener because my whole recovery has been geared around Gamblers Anonymous. And like you said, to give a balance, GA doesn't work for everybody. Some people have tried it, doesn't work. There's people who've tried GA and it's had a negative effect on them. And I think that GA has an opportunity, I think, moving forward. It needs to slightly evolve, maybe in the wording, literature. I don't really know, but there's people up there higher than me who need to make those kind of decisions. But I think we need to have those opportunities to look really more into gambling addiction, gambling disorder. It's coming into the framework. It's coming to the framework of being under the NHS, and rightly so. But I think giving yourself the opportunity, or having those opportunities to talk about recovery, and having people with lived experience to talk to alongside a clinician kind of background, where because sometimes it's a bit more deep rooted. I look at my recovery now and realise that, again, I keep on using that. I go back to this escapism. One of the huge triggers for me was escapism, and I was kind of addressing the reasons around escapism. It's been real insightful for me, and had a huge impact on me. Not to the point that I think I could ever go back to gambling. There's never any thought in my mind that I could, because I'm an all-or-nothing kind of guy. Whether I've got addictive personality, I don't really know, but I know that through my track record with relapses. So I've gone through three relapses during my 12 years, 13 years going to GA, and I've had my trigger points. And then recognising those trigger points and then making sure they don't happen again are important. But they say in GA that you're only ever one day away from a bet. And if you think about it that way, then and I will always use the GA framework for my recovery. So things like handling money, accounting for your time. The core model around GA is brilliant. It's an abstinence-led program, and I will fundamentally always follow that rule of thumb for me, because it's stood me in good stead. And I will always think to myself that if I was talking to a guy this morning on the phone, bizarrely, and I said, and he said the same things, that my mind, I could not process. I'm not capable of dealing with another relapse, not just from a financial point of view, emotional point of view. Is that I think that whilst I've had 2 failed suicide attempts, that another relapse for me now would finish me. I couldn't. I know it in my life, because the relapse with me are not small margin. I don't go into a bookies or place an online bet and have a couple of small little bets here. It starts off with a couple of small bets, but within days and weeks, it's gone that way, and I'm off the radar in terms of there's no control and there's no accountability and there's no thought process. So I know that I cannot bet again. That's just, I can't go back to that world, and neither do I want to, because it's everything is wrong with it. And this is what we're trying to do. And this is one of the big problems with recovery, and trying to get people to reach out and seek help, is the fact that the polluters in this country or around the world are very manipulative, and gambling is rammed down your throat to a level where it's saturated. I mean, as we discussed, I'm going to be doing the Big Step walk. I'm only on it for 2 days next week, and this is raising awareness of gambling sponsorship within football in particular. It's completely saturated, and James, who leads that up, we've got about 20 or 30 people with lived experience going on this walk. It's the biggest walk to date, and I'm really proud to be a part of that group of people. And this is what we need, because what people are failing to understand is that, and again, this is going back to the products potentially and the polluters in it, is the fact that we had this campaign a few years ago on smoking, and the advertising was banned, and rightly so, because tobacco does kill you. And what we got trying to do is, and again, there's a gambling review imminent, and this is everything that needs looking into, is the fact that we are now in this country and in the world really at unprecedented levels of public health crises of gambling, because it's completely in your face 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it needs that public health sort of look at it, because that's the only way you can really address it. And I think this is where gambling is quite niche, in the fact that when people talk about drink and drugs, there's one product in it, alcohol. And I know the issue on alcohol because of the social side of stuff. We've got a big drink culture in this country, and alcoholism and problems we get with alcohol are massive. And again, needs looking at. But the social side of things, that runs that down, and because it's seen as because of the social aspect of it. With the smoking, from a public health point of view, this is where gambling needs to take the same route, in the fact that gambling is harmful. There are harmful products out there, and unfortunately, what people are realizing is that some of these products are addictive by design. So what we're trying to do is make people understand that I don't want people to get into the same position I got, where you have to take personal responsibility for your addiction. You have to take some responsibility for the behaviours and some of the stuff that you've done. That can only be a good thing for your own recovery. But you can't completely blame others. But on the flip side is that you, people and children in particular, now are getting targeted by gambling products, to the point where, like you said, you've got a football shirt. Football's the biggest sport in the world, and it's completely saturated with gambling sponsorship. You're advertising gambling. Children now are advertising gambling on tops, and we've got to we need now to start doing something about it. And we're fortunate that the Gambling Act is up for review, and hopefully that's something we're going to look at. But in terms of looking into treatment and recovery, what we actively seeking people to do is to break that stigma and say there's no shame in having this problem. And especially, and I have to bring up women in this, because there's some really great ladies out there who have been affected by gambling, who have again put their head above the parapet and told their story. And it's the women really particularly struggle to seek treatment and advice, I think, because of the whole motherhood thing and the shame and the stigma of I'm the mum and I can't have a gambling problem type of thing. And we really need to actively support that, and actively support and encourage women to come forward and say, because gambling doesn't differentiate between men and women at all. And there's so many, and this is why we talk about products, is the fact that tobacco is harmful for you. It's one product and it's bad for you. Gambling, there's some products out there that are less harmful than others, but there are some seriously addictive products out there. And when they're advertised at will, you can understand why people get addicted to it. And then to put all that responsibility onto their shoulders is wrong. And I think the industry as a whole have played down their responsibilities, passed on this responsibility. We talk about this responsible gambling, Well, ultimately, it's more than just one person. You can't put the responsible gambling mantra onto individual. Collectively, we have to have. It comes from government level. It comes from the operators, and everybody has to take their share of responsibility in this. And that is the only way you're going to get people to come forward and say, "Yeah, I need some help in this. I've got a gambling issue, and I need some help." Because moving on from just trying to cause the prevention comes from education, isn't it? I mean, what we're looking at is a huge crisis in the fact that the education is poor, which is what we need with children to stop them getting into it. And then the treatment sector, whilst GA is brilliant, there hasn't been a lot of options out there. And I know people talk about gam care and stuff like that, but I think realistically, I think this treatment sector is pretty poor. And if any treatment providers are out there are talking about controlling this addiction and controlling how you spend it, then they are fundamentally part of the problem and not part of the solution. And that's one of the key things for me, is that people in this sector have an opportunity to be part of the solution or part of the problem. And what I'm finding and seeing is that there's too many people within this sector already that for whatever reason, whereas I'm not going to make accusations, but are fundamentally, I think, part of the problem and not part of the solution. But yeah, I think we just need to really encourage people to seek help and support, because I don't want people being in my position. And there are people, I mean, we talk to the families who gamble lives. Ultimately, there's people out there paying the ultimate sacrifice and taking their lives because they don't feel they can access support because of the stigma attached to it. And that is such a crying shame, because these are well-educated, great, bright people who generally can be in teens or in their 20s, and they got a whole life ahead of them, and it's been taken away from them by gambling, and that needs to end. It needs to end.